Behind the Shades.
So Austin, then Dallas. Well, Dallas, you don't know. Austin, and then anywhere but Houston in Texas.
People in Houston are going to be like, I'm not listening to this anymore.
I know they've already clicked off. I've seen the metrics. They're out of here. We love you, Texans. We do.
Oh
we do.
my gosh. Yeah.
So we are going to speak about having mothers or women in general feeling stylish, beautiful, and full of energy.
Yeah.
So before we get into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are?
Yeah. So I live just outside of Austin. Just moved into the country. I have 3 chickens. So life is a little bit different than the city. I am a mom. I've got 2 boys and a husband, and I was a theater director for like 20 years. I did that for a long time. It was my passion. I loved directing. And then kind of, just a couple years ago, kind of came to this realization that I didn't feel like I was showing up as I wanted to, clothing wise. I was in mom land. I'm like changing diapers and doing all that kind of stuff. Well, at that point I wasn't anymore, but I had been doing it for a long time, and then really realized how much I loved, timeless clothing and just style, and watching how style evolves, because I'm having to costume different shows and stuff like that. And so like this kind of thing happened where a piece of my old love mixed with like this love that I have for fashion and for doing what I did for myself, which was to create an easy way to get dressed, a capsule wardrobe, so that I could feel good, feel confident, feel stylish, and use what I learned from costuming shows. And so that kind of molded together. And I've been doing that for a couple years. I have a capsule wardrobe course where I teach women how to do that to their wardrobe. And then I offer image coaching. And so, yeah. And I'm 40. So I just like completely changed my life, which is kind of funny, but I love it.
I know one of my friends, she just celebrated one of her friends' 40th birthday. And I asked the question, and I felt bad because I kind of aged both of them. And I asked the question, do you have a mug that says 40 and fabulous? And she was like, yes, I actually gave her that mug. So when you mentioned 40, I was like, do you have that mug?
I don't, but I totally resonate with a woman having that mug at 40. And I also think like it depends on like when you had children and stuff, but I'm heading into this, like, I was really nervous about 40. I mean, I was nervous about 30, but I was nervous about 40, but I realized that like 40 is where you truly do not give 2 craps about what people think about you. And, for me, like my boys are kind of older. They can feed themselves, dress themselves, do all that stuff. They got their own lives going on. They're 12 and 8 or 9, 12 and 9. And so right now it feels like it's my time right now. And I think that's where the 40 and fabulous mug comes from. It's just feeling really good in your skin, and taking that time to really devote some time to yourself that you may not have been able to do throughout your 30s, and then didn't have the money to do throughout your 20s. So it's a little different. Yeah.
I would say I absolutely agree, because where we are in North America, we spend most of our teens, well, not most, all of our teens, and probably half of our 20s in school. Mm-hmm. We're still trying to figure out this crazy thing called life, right? And then when we finally, well, I don't say escape, but when we finally graduate school, we're in our mid-20s, and then we're still trying to find out who we are. But once you have a family and you have children and things of that nature, and once they're old enough, like you mentioned, once they're they're 12, they're 9, they're 15, they're 20, and you're in your 40s, you're like, it's my time. Mm-hmm. And for many of us, right, we still look young enough. I know some mornings when we get up out of bed, we're like, my back and my
Yeah.
hip, it's
Yeah.
things are a little bit sore than they used to be. But for the mothers out there, how would you help them get to feel confident, feel stylish, feel beautiful when for a lot of women, they may not feel that way after having a number of children?
Right. I think that the biggest thing that I would say is to be able to devote some of that time, right? So like that process of looking inward and figuring out who you want to show up as is almost an investment, right? It's a time investment that a lot of women are not used to making. They're not used to devoting time devoting time to themselves, because they're taking care of, kids or dogs or chickens. And so they are, or husbands or whatever it might be. And so I think that it, first and foremost, it's looking at yourself and really deciding, like, who do I want to be? Who do I want to show up as? And really determining what that is first before we talk about your body or what colors you wear and all that kind of stuff. That stuff is really, really important. But I think for those women who are just going through it, right, they need to kind of figure out, am I showing up the way that I think other people want me to show up as? And a lot of times we kind of realize that we are showing up as our parents want us to show up as, or our coworkers, or the people that we go to church with, or whatever it might be, because they're expecting this kind of version of ourselves. And that's what we wear or what we put on for other people. And so it really is kind of like, okay, I know I've been doing that a lot lately, even though I kind of went through this process, when I started this program, this business. But even as I turned 40 and as I, left the workplace to kind of come home and work my business, I've been going through this transition, the same transition. And I know that my husband's been like, whoa, like, what's happening with you? And I'm kind of like walking out of the house and my son's like, what are you wearing? I'm like, well, and so it's just one of those things where you first have to kind of figure that out. And once you figure out that you're going to show up as you want to show up, that is going to instantly give you that confidence boost. And then we start to look at, like, okay, my body isn't what it was in its 20s or whatever. Is that something I want to change? Is it something that I'm kind of like, I'm actually really fine with that? And like, how can I dress this body of mine? How can I pick out things that are going to accentuate the things that I love? And same thing with colors. And so that kind of comes, down the line a little bit.
And I will piggyback off of that. And I think as we get older, we start to take on the perspective of others, as you mentioned, my church family, my personal family, my work family. And you begin to decide in yourself, because I don't know about your closet, but in my closet, when you go into the very back, that's like a blast from the past. That's like who I used to be.
Right.
All the stuff that maybe you can't fit in anymore. And you're like, oh, I can't believe I wore that. Right. Because the style in the 80s and 90s were probably different than the 2000s and the 2010s and the 2020s. So when you have women who feel that maybe as a mother, they can't present themselves a certain way, are you helping them to understand that they can, but maybe with a little bit of a twist? Is that my understanding of it?
I think that, yeah, obviously, we're not all in the position where we can, let's say we love spaghetti strap tank tops. Like, I'm just pulling something out of thin air. I could not wear that to work. I just left a private school, a Christian private school workplace. So like that would not work. Right. But I think that, but yes, if I still worked there, or when I did work there, I just left in July. And so when I did work there, I absolutely did take, do some of the wear some of the things that I wanted to wear. And yes, there was like, oh wow, like that's a, but I wasn't doing anything that was like breaking any rules. I wasn't being scandalous at all. I was showing up. If anything, I was a little bit dressier than like other teachers were. And so it was, but I didn't care. I got to a point where I was like, this is who I am. This is what I want to wear. And what I started to notice was that people were asking for my advice, or it was like, I was getting showered with all these compliments and stuff like that. And so I think that, sorry, there's like a weird bug flying around. So I think that that's, yes, it is going to be difficult for some women to show up maybe exactly how they want to be, showing up, because they want to like, wear crop tops all the time and they work at a bank. Like, that's just going to be difficult. But I think it's important. And we could go into a whole nother thing that is about like the way that you hold yourself, like that has nothing to do with your clothes, and the way that you are true to yourself through your actions and your words, and the way that you hold yourself, and the way that you set boundaries and all of that kind of stuff, your self-worth. And so, but in terms of, I think that there is a way for you to bring in your own personal style, no matter where you work. And I love helping women try to figure that out, because I think it's really important.
I think so as well. And when you mentioned the person's wearing like crop tops at a bank, reminds me of when I went to take out money, and there's this young lady. Well, I call everyone young lady, but she was older than I am. She was probably in her 40s, and she like had a shirt that had like the plunging neckline, right? And then I looked over, and there's all men in her in her wicket, right?
Right.
And then but we get why, right? But
yeah,
but one thing I want to say is that confidence, I think, for many of us, is through our clothing, how we present ourselves, as you mentioned. Can it be difficult, maybe at times, to help women find the confidence in themselves and then present it through what they're wearing?
absolutely. We have probably decades worth of media, family, friends kind of in our brain. It's almost like breaking that up, and breaking that down into its pieces, and kind of pulling out the golden nugget, and then building that person back up. It is a process, as interesting and as weird as it may sound for someone who helps people redo their wardrobe, but it's very, very deep. And it's yeah, I mean, if we think of all the things, I'll just give an example. So when I was younger, my parents are fairly conservative, and I was raised conservative. My dad was military 30 years, went to Vietnam twice, like super conservative. And had a certain image that he wanted to present. And as I got older, I really loved the color black. And I wasn't wearing black lipstick or any, I wasn't like going, goth, like 90s. That's when I was in high school, late 90s. I just really liked black. That's just like what I felt good in. And he always kind of had something to say whenever I would wear black, and it was always negative. And, like it made me bad, or it just had a negative connotation to it. And so I had that in my mind. Well, as I got older and I became a director and I was directing for a school, like I loved wearing black. Like I just loved representing like that director part of me. Right. And that's like classic, like you wear black, and I had to, but when I looked in my wardrobe, there was hardly any black, because I had that in my mind that every time I went shopping, I avoided that and I tried to get color. So I had like, a million items, and they were all super bright and colorful, which was not me. And I didn't know how to dress myself, and I would put these things on, and I didn't really know how to like wear those colors, and I didn't even really like them. And so it kind of just, I just didn't feel good about myself. And so I think that that we have to, as women, we have to, or men, anybody, break you had to break the person down, and you got to really like get rid of all those like preconceived notions and get to the heart of who they want to be. And then you kind of add that stuff back in. And that can be just really difficult, but it's necessary. I feel like I kind of repeated myself a little bit.
No, that was helpful because my closet can probably use some of that guidance right there. But I understand. I know when I spoke to a few people in regards to wearing the color black, they felt that it was comforting. They felt like safe in it, right? So when I look at my closet or when I look at what I'm wearing, I own very little black because I think they call it shades, right? I own very little. I just love the bright colors. I love the red. I love the blue. I love the orange. But when I look at some of the colors, even though I love them, like to own it, wearing it is a totally different conversation. So how do you like, let's say, for example, me, or if there's anyone else that's like me, how do you get someone like me from the point where they love these colors? Now, how can they love wearing those colors?
Right. So it's going to be, and this again goes into some really like deep rabbit holes that, but essentially like in the course that we help people to find out what colors look best on them. And it's not, here's what I'll say. When you see people who are like color and analysts or whatever they call themselves, where you'll see like on Instagram and they have the different, like, have you seen that where they have the different color scarves and they like remove them and the girl's like,
I've seen those. Looks cool to me.
It looks super cool.
Yeah.
I think the thing is that for me, I would rather teach someone how to do that themselves and know, so they know to, I'm not just saying like, these are what your colors are, but I'm like, let's go through this and discuss. I wouldn't go as deep as to say like, we're going to be discussing color theory, because that sounds really boring, but essentially there are certain colors that we may love, but when we put them on and they are reflected up to our skin tone, they do not look good. I love a lot of colors. I do. I obviously love black, but like, there's this particular store that I love to shop at. And if I could buy everything in there, I totally would. But in that store, there is this shade of green that I love so much. And I wish that I could wear it. But when I wear this particular shade of green, I look ill, like I'm about to throw up. Like I just cannot. And I think that it's one of those things where you're just like, I can't wear that color, but I really love it. And maybe I could have it on an accessory or I could use it somewhere else, but it's just not going to be something that I'm wearing like as a shirt, because it makes me look a certain way. So, and I will say that I think that style for men is really important. And I don't think that I'm a super expert on style for men in a certain way, but I went through a huge transformation with my husband, just like maybe a month ago, and updating his style, completely changed the way he is, his personality, his behavior, the way he holds himself. And then he ended up getting like some crazy 6-figure job. So like, I do think that it's important for everyone. And that is why it's just so vital that people feel really good in their clothes, because it can change just everything about you, the way that you feel inside when you're showing up the way you want to. And so when you were talking about color, you do want to wear colors that are going to look good with like your skin tone and all of that stuff, because that's just going to make you feel so good. You know what I mean? And there are people who don't care about that and they're going to wear whatever color makes them happy. And that's totally fine too. I think that like in my course, I really try to set boundaries around things where I'm like, or not boundaries, basically where I say, these are my opinions, but I want you to be a leader within your own wardrobe and the way that you dress yourself. Right. So if I'm telling you like, hey, I don't think that yellow may not be super complimentary to your skin tone, but if you want to wear it, then wear it. If it's going to bring a smile to your face and it makes you feel confident, then whatever I say about your skin tone, like, does not matter. Like who cares at that point? So, there are people who just like, I follow so many different people who there's one girl I follow and she thrifts. And she has a ton of bright, colorful outfits that are like 80s and like they are a true vibe. And she just loves that so much. And so it's like, awesome. Like you do you.
I think that's absolutely amazing because I totally changed my wardrobe. Like for me, I'm a person that I don't wear jeans, for example.
Yeah.
So it's either khakis or dress pants. But what I did was I started to pair what I wanted to wear. So I would have, okay, let's say if I have like a silver dress pants, what kind of tops can I or dress vest can I match with it? So that's how I navigated that way. And when I saw these items in my closet, to your point, it brought a smile to my face. Even like right now, I'm happy talking about it. There was a point where I wasn't. It was just, okay, what made sense? Is it clean? Does it look
Right.
semi decent?
Yeah.
And then off I went. But you're changing, and this is without hyperbole, you're changing people's lives because if I can realize the importance of it, if your husband, as you mentioned, he's changed, right? He probably is more upbeat. He may have changed in ways that we're able to put him in a position to get the kind of success that he had, right? So when you are helping women, is there a specific process that you follow to help them along in regards to this?
Yeah, we do. So I like to say that I am a wardrobe stylist, not a personal stylist. And so the reason I say that is because I want to go from beginning to end through your entire wardrobe, not just like I'm helping you with some outfits or I'm helping you get ready for a certain event or whatnot. And so we start with mindset. That's in my course. There's like a 6 module course and there's like 30 something videos. And the very beginning of that is going to be your mindset. And we talk about that for a long time. Then we go through personal style and how to kind of figure out what your style is. I have women who come to me who are like, I love like the French style, laid back, comfortable. And then they've got these things about their lives that are important to them. Like I need it to be easy to take care of because I have, 5 kids or whatever it is. Or maybe they're like, I like this style, but I want to be a little bit edgier or something like that. It's very different. There's a whole wide range of what people are looking for in their clothes. And so we then go through kind of figuring out your personal style. Then we go through what are the 4 things that each of your items should have, like, and then we go through which that's fit, style, color, and quality. Those are the 4 things that I have every woman look at when she's looking at an item in her wardrobe. And that's what determines whether she keeps it or not. And so then we go through that. Then we go through your color, finding color palette, figuring out body type, dressing for your body type, and then how to shop, which is important. Like no one tells us how to shop ever. Like it is not something like we know. Our moms are like taking a shot. They don't know how to shop. You know what I mean? So kind of my process for how I taught myself how to shop. So how to shop and then how to sell your clothes. And that is a whole, like the whole course is run with a sustainability thread weaved through it because I really believe in sustainability. And so I believe in like not just donating your clothes to Goodwill, but donating to a specific charity or selling them so that you can give them a second home and get some of your money back. So it's a full shebang, right? Like it's just like the whole thing, which is just really, really fun. But I just want women to have a complete thing. And we are also revamping the course right now where it includes group coaching. And so there are group coaching Zooms that we will be doing because I also feel like some women might still be really clueless as to what is going to look good. And I want them to be able to be like, either they're having trouble with mindset and they want to ask, or they literally want to be like, do these 2 things go together, or whatever it might be. And so that gives me a little bit of like kind of one-on-one time in a way to devote that time to them. So it's a lot, but it's fun.
That is amazing because it sounds like it's a full range of assistance. And I love that you touched on the mindset because from the outside looking in, that seems to be a difficult first step. Would that be accurate to say?
Yeah, it is, because there's so many reasons why. Okay, the first thing that people think of is, well, I need to get rid of clothes. And then they think, just like what you said, well, I have a whole nother wardrobe in a completely different size. And then that is what leads you to why you have to tackle mindset first. Why, or someone gave me these clothes and I have to keep them because it's rude if I get rid of them. Or, you know, whatever the reasons are behind why we're holding on to clothes. It started with that. That was what, whenever I started this process 2 years ago, and I was kind of putting this together, it was that. But then it was also, then you add in my body, all of that kind of things. And so, yes, mindset is so, so important to start with. And I don't think we realize why it's so important to go through our clothes and redo our wardrobe, and how much it can really, really help someone in their everyday life besides what they're wearing. That's such a vain thing to some people. And it's so much bigger than that.
Is that some of the struggles that maybe you went through when you were on your journey?
Yeah, I would say some of the struggles were definitely the keeping clothes that were a size too small, which a ton of women do. And because, we think we're going to get back to that size, and maybe you are, but I always like to tell them, hey, if you've been thinking that for, did you work out yesterday? Did you, have you been thinking that for how long have you been hanging on to these clothes? And why? And the other thing is, or they try to fit into them and they don't look good. And I'm like, hey, go ahead and buy the item in your size and let's try it. Let's try being able to zip that up so easily. And then they're like, oh my gosh, it doesn't look any different. I don't look bigger because I'm wearing a bigger size. No, you look like you don't. You look bigger when you try to fit into a smaller size. And so it's just really interesting. And I did the exact same stuff, all the same stories. And it's just, man, women just have so much going on up here in regards to their image and what they look and how they show up to other people. And so yeah, definitely the other size, definitely the having a bunch of random colors in my thing that I despised. What are some of the other things I had? Holding on to items that my dad bought me, why? But because I'm what if he is are you going to wear that thing? And I don't have it. He's never said that to me ever, but it's I just, it's all those things of it's the people pleasing. We hold on to a lot of that. Partly is because of what we're going through ourselves, but partly because women tend to be people pleasers, and we want to make people happy. And so we hold on to things. And yeah, I went through a lot of that myself.
Hey, we're having a fancy dinner. Can you wear that shirt that I bought you, a couple of years ago for your birthday? And you're like, yeah. Then you got to find it and everything. And I think you make a good point where the clothes that used to fit and doesn't fit anymore. I can see so many people struggling with that because hope is a beautiful thing, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's going to fit. It may not fit today, but I promise you it's going to fit tomorrow. And then tomorrow turns into the next day and so on and so forth. And I will totally agree. I think it's better you realize after you actually take that step forward that even though it might be a size or two bigger than it was, you look just as good, if not better, than trying to squeeze in into something that we all know you don't fit into. Um, is that does sound like a struggle to me. Is there still difficulty with your clients when it comes to that part of it?
Yeah, I think that I I think that sizing is, you know, it's hard. I noticed as I was shopping with my husband, size doesn't really matter as much to him. Now, my husband is pretty thin, but y'all have weird sizes too. It's like pants are like 32, 30. Like, I'm like, why are there so many sizes? Like, it's so
Oh yeah,
weird.
like one day I'm a 34, 32, the next day I'm a 36, 32, and then I
It's
can
so
be a 34, 30. It's insane. Where women's like, okay, I'm a size 6, we're good to go.
right. Like, it's so men's sizing is so different, is terrifying to us because it means like, no, like we're changing, our body is changing, and we need to go start working out. And it's all these stories that we tell them ourselves. And so I do think that it's the hesitancy to move up to that next number and to be, I am now an 8, like I need to get used to the fact that I'm an 8, and that is what I am right now, unless I'm willing to actually make changes to whether I'm going to go work out or drink a bunch of water or whatever it might be that is going to bring you back down. But 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 it's also like it's almost an eye trick, because you can put on that pair of 8 pants and you're like, oh, I just look normal. Like, and I went through this actually during COVID. So um total honesty, during COVID I was drinking homemade margaritas almost every night. so, so I my husband had the absolute like blessing to be able to keep going to work. So while I that's a huge blessing for our family, but I was still home with both my kids, like walking the same dang route around our neighborhood every day, multiple times a day. And so life was stressful. So I was drinking margaritas, and I think towards it wasn't really towards the end, but at some point I had like gotten a bunch of clothes, and I was like, well, you go in a cycle, right? When you start going up in size, you start feeling down about yourself. You start wearing, like, for women, it might be that we start wearing leggings more. Like, jeans are like, we're not wearing jeans. It's leggings, it's t-shirts, which just makes us feel like depressed. Um, and so then it's kind of a path that we're going down. And I really knew that I needed to get some clothes because I was starting to kind of feel that way and feel really down about myself. And I went to the store and I tried on, I had taken a couple sizes in with me, and I tried on the size that normally would have fit me. And I was like, it didn't fit. And so I'm like, it's okay, like totally fine. This is what I talk about with my clients, and I'm trying to like stay really positive. And so then I tried the next size up, and I was like, oh, I look good. Like, I was like, I like, the size doesn't matter. Like, the number doesn't matter. And I'm not saying that in like a size doesn't matter way, because I know it matters, ladies. I got it. But it didn't at the time. What I look like matters, not what the tag says on the item. So, yeah, we all go through it, and I still go through it. I started to go through another like kind of wardrobe declutter, and I have some items that do not fit me that I'm like, maybe they'll fit me. Like, I really feel like I like ran twice last week. I haven't run in a decade before that, but I did run twice last week. I feel like I'm on a roll. Like, we all still go through it. It's just getting used to, like, at a certain point, I'm going to be like, it's not going to happen. I'm going to go ahead and sell those items. And that's the thing. That's why I propose selling so much, is because when you have a whole wardrobe that's a whole extra size, find the positives, right? The positive is that you have an entire wardrobe that you could sell, make money back, and just buy yourself a new wardrobe. So yeah.
Hear that, ladies? It's not about the number, it's about how you feel. And she ran twice last week and she didn't have that cookie, so she will fit into the clothing. She promises you, I can't promise you, but she definitely promises you it will work out for everyone there. Exactly. So as we get to the point to help them, I think you made an interesting point, because I know I'm going to go declutter my closet.
Good.
And I'm going to send a message to everyone that I know and say, hey, get rid of that item.
There you go.
Yeah, right?
Size doesn't matter. Get rid of it.
Right? Get rid of it. So what's something that you want to share maybe with the next generation in regards to advice when it comes to feeling stylish and beautiful? Because we know that mothers are something that will never end, and there's always someone who is blessing the world with a child.
The issue is that I can say all those things, but I've had those things said to me and you don't want to listen to them. You know, like I can say to those like really young moms who just had like babies and they're like, oh, and they feel terrible. And it's like, it's just a season. And in no time, you're going to be able to like, you know, feel good in clothes again, and you're going to have some time to yourself. But when you're in the muck, you're in the muck. And the only thing that I can really say is like, you're doing fine the way that you are, and time, the things that are meant to happen will happen at that time. And the season that you're going through is the season that you're meant to go through at that time. And sometimes you have to just say, I don't have control over this. I don't have control over what's going on with my clothes or anything. I just put on this new outfit and then my baby spit up on it. And now it's like, you know what I mean? Like those times are really, really hard. And so it's sometimes you just have to just accept that that's the season that you're in. And you know, do what you can, but not try to do everything. And it's just really, really difficult. I'm not sure how great advice that is, but I'm just like, you put me in this mindset of thinking of those moms, and I remember being one, and there's just nothing that anyone could say that would make me feel better. But there is always going to be a time for you to make those adjustments so that you can show up as you want to be, right? And if I had tried to do this when I was, you know, a 20-something-year-old mom or a 30-something-year-old mom, and they were little, it would not have been the same. It just would not have, I would have been really unsure, and it would have been a little bit of a harder thing to go through. And so it really just depends on where you are and where you are mentally in terms of being able to go through this process. And I'm not saying that you have to be 40 to go through this process and have grown kids, but if you're thinking like, I just cannot focus on my clothes, like, then that's totally fine. Like focus on your kids type of thing. But if it really bothers you and you feel like inch by inch you can do that work, then begin to do that work, because it's going to be really helpful.